your dog meat, pal.
Never grow old, Michael.
The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. Showtime.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is David over here at Sinister Strips Podcast with my running mate.
Hey, guys. What's up? It's Ryan.
And today we are going to do the film Alien Romulus. But before that, you guys can check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Sinister Scripts and TikTok at Sinister Scripts Podcast for all of our fun little adventures during the week.
That's right. Yeah. So Alien Romulus. So probably my most anticipated movie of the year. I think for me personally.
I would say probably the last few years, because Aliens, I mean, let's not beat around the bush. Aliens is probably like the greatest movie ever made, at least in my opinion. So I was happy that a new installment was coming out for the franchise.
Yeah, I was definitely excited. I think that even though I consider Aliens a action movie and not a horror movie, it's an action movie with horror elements. Like, I think Alien, the original, I think was more of a horror.
Oh yeah, of course.
But we're splitting hairs here if we really want to go through this. But yeah, so Alien Romulus, we went and saw it on Thursday night, so opening night, and this definitely kicked off the weekend in a good way, and I think it pulled like $18 million in the opening weekend.
Yeah. You said what the budget was, 80?
Yeah. So I got all the details here just to give you a quick rundown. So this was directed by Fede Álvarez of he did the Evil Dead remake in 2013.
Yeah.
So that's probably what he's most well known for in the horror community. He also did Don't Breathe, which I thought was good. The first one was great. Second one sucked. But
that's kind of horror adjacent.
Horror thriller, a little. Yeah.
They kind of consider.
Yeah. So big time directing chops, like someone who I think that's why most people were excited, because he directed it and it was produced by Ridley Scott. So you got Ridley Scott involved in it, and you got Fede Álvarez, who's proven that he can do it. I don't know. I feel like I have so many thoughts on this fucking movie. I'm just like, where am I going with this? But so Fede Álvarez, Ridley Scott. This was released on Thursday. Budget was $80 million. Did $18 million in the first night, and it's on track now. It's over $40 million. So this is uber popular.
Step in the right direction.
I mean, we went and saw it in IMAX, and it was a massive auditorium, and it was pretty much full. So
it was,
as opposed to like other movies we went to where we were the only people in the fucking theater. So
yeah, it's been a few of those lately.
Exactly, but that's just
that's just that theater, I think, too.
And so from what I'm seeing on this, just like people I'm watching on TikTok and other social media, is like, this is kind of to me it's split down the middle.
I've been seeing a little bit of that too.
Like, people love it or people are like shitting on it.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, it's the worst. It has no story, this and that.
Please everybody, man.
And and we'll get into kind of the all the nuances, and kind of we can go through our thoughts and what it is. But
we will.
Let's first start with the plot, and let's kind of walk through the scene by scene and introduce you to some of the characters and give you an overview of it, and we can kind of stop. So this movie is sandwiched in between the original Alien 1979 and Aliens, the sequel. And if you're looking at the Alien timeline, which I so conveniently pulled up, we've got the Alien, the original film, was the year 2122. Romulus is 2142, and then Aliens is 2179. So
it's 20 years after the first.
Roughly, yep.
Okay.
So we enter the Weyland-Yutani space probe investigation of the USCSS Nostromo, which collects an organic object, which is a xenomorph, for research. Yeah. So we see in the beginning where like a ship flying, and they are going through the debris of the Nostromo. So the Nostromo is blown up.
Yep.
They grab something, and then they pull it into their little space station. It turns out they cut it open, and it's a xenomorph.
Yeah, well, it shows like
it's like a fossil almost.
A fossilized xenomorph almost too. But I want to quick to point out, I love the fact that the movie started out with just complete silence, and it just zooms in through the window of the spaceship that they're in, going towards this wreckage. And all the computers start flicking on and everything like that. And I mentioned in the theater, I was like, thank God that they using older looking technology like they had in the first movie.
Yep.
that's the thing I hate the most. Like when they make kind of prequels and ish to that extent, like with newer stuff, is they use newer technology than they used previously, so it looks stupid as fuck.
Yeah,
I love that little.
Yeah, they definitely did a good job. I like the no sound also. They did that. There were several parts in the movie where they kind of went to that, where it was like completely absence
Complete
of
silence,
sounds,
yeah.
which I think I liked. I think it sets a nice tone for it. So they're collecting this xenomorph, which we all know where this is kind of heading, but we're finally introduced to our main character, whose name is Rain Carradine. She is an orphan, we find out, and is working with her brother, Andy, who is a synthetic human. He's an android.
An android, yep.
And they are on a mining colony owned by Weyland-Yutani called Jackson Star.
Which looks like a shithole.
Yeah. We come to find out that it's basically she has been putting in time in the mines, and after a certain amount of time, she's granted like her release where she can travel. Gets a travel visa or something like that. So we kind of follow her as she's going to leave and head for another company or another planet called Yuvaga. So her contract gets unexpectedly extended by Weyland-Yutani because they're a bunch of fucking assholes.
How they are. It was like 4 or 5 years. They said some shit.
Yeah, they're like,
that.
oh, we've doubled your quota, so now in another 5 years you can get your travel visa. So she basically says fuck that, and she agrees to go with her ex-boyfriend Tyler on a mission to this spacecraft that's quote unquote hovering just outside of orbit to retrieve some cryo chambers, which will allow them to enter cryo sleep to make the journey to Yuvaga, which was
9 years away, like space travel time.
So, but they didn't have the pod, so they had to break into the spaceship that's owned by the company that just extended their work in order to leave the planet. That's their whole plan.
Yeah.
They're joined with a couple of other friends. Tyler, so that's her ex-boyfriend, his pregnant sister Kay, his cousin Bjorn, asshole, and Bjorn's girlfriend Navarro.
Yeah,
so
that's the main cast.
Those are the main characters. So I don't know.
Where do you want to begin with the plot hole?
I have a hard time with this. I mean, real quickly, they're like, this is a spaceship. It's out there. We're just gonna go grab these cryopods and then we're gonna dip out.
Yeah, which is fine.
Then Rain's like, hey, that's not a spaceship. That's a fucking like space station. Yeah, basically like a derelict space station. Yeah. Exactly. So. The reason they need Rain is because of Andy, the synthetic. So Andy has the ability to interface with Mother, the spaceship, and all the systems that they're going to need in order to get into it. So that's why they need Rain. Yep, exactly. Because they need Andy.
And and just like we were kind of griping afterwards, like Weyland-Yutani is a type of company. It's a scumbag government, company that will do whatever it takes to get what they want, which in the end game has always been, let's get this alien and make it a fucking weapon. So how in the hell do they not know of this space station just orbiting right above their planet? A. B, how is it like, she's denied being able to leave the planet, but then they just jump on that ship and take off. And that's it. They're just like, oh, yeah, okay, that's fine. Just a big old fucking spaceship just leaving without any permissions or, I figured there would be some sort of like, I don't know, like fucking security protocols and all that kind of shit. Like they just were like, oh, all right, let's leave.
So best I can think, I was thinking about that too. Best I can, I guess, speculate is that those ships aren't equipped with any kind of space travel capabilities, like the cryo tubes or any of that stuff. They would die if they tried to. So maybe they're like, hey, anyone dumb enough to try to like dip out in a spaceship is gonna.
Where are you gonna go?
Where are you gonna go?
Okay,
and
yeah, that makes more sense now that you say that.
I literally just thought of that. I was like, huh. I wonder.
I'm sure that's not what they were thinking when they were doing it, but I like it.
or they're just. I mean, yeah, or they just don't care.
They just wanted to speed the movie along.
I mean, maybe, and we'll get into a little bit of the plot itself. But I also had a problem with the fact that they're just letting this space station that had to have known has been overrun by,
or at least that there's no contact.
Right, and they're like, it's just floating out there. Then they're like, well, it's gonna hit this fucking ice belt
in 36 hours.
In 36 hours and be destroyed anyway. And I was like, okay, all right. So we're seeing some fucking plot holes here. I'm willing to look past a lot of this because it's the whole point is like of the movie is on this space station. Yeah. So what basically Rain doesn't want to send Andy in, but she gets convinced to allow him to assist them. They fly the mining ship up to the space station, which is divided into two parts, which is Romulus and Remus, and it's a research station basically.
Yeah.
So when they get to the space station, they crawl in. Tyler and Andy and Bjorn kind of crawl in through like the same style of like fucking exhaust tube that
from Aliens.
Yeah, that Bishop was crawling through. It looked like exactly.
Which I would have been like, fuck that. I'm
Right.
good.
Right. So we've kind of like nitpicked on all the little pieces. That's kind of the first scene. It's kind of like background, introduction to the characters, and then also like what's the main goal?
Yeah, what are they doing here?
So the main goal is to get these cryopods and then
Go off to that planet.
Exactly.
9 years away.
My problem is that like I don't care about any of these characters.
No, and they don't give you enough to care
No.
about them, like, which is kind of sucks because the main character, like in all of the Alien movies, like is supposed to kind of be like the Ripley of the movie. So you're like, she's made for people to want to fucking cheer her on. But
Right.
in the end, there's not really enough character development to really give a shit because like Bjorn, that guy's a scumbag.
Yep.
And he shows it fairly quickly once they get on the ship because he makes it known that like, hey, we don't need you after this, Andy, because where we're going, synthetics aren't allowed. So fuck you, you're not coming. And like keeps threatening him with that like little cattle prod thing he finds, and he's just a scumbag. So
You get a little bit of background, just like, oh, he hates synthetics because the synthetic shut down the mine,
which
killed his mom.
resulted in his mom dying.
Yeah, because it was like save 20 miners and like to kill 3, like sealed it off, and so he's he's butthurt. I think I understand. I would probably be mad too, but he's just kind of sucks as a character. They didn't do a whole lot, I will say.
No.
You know, I was chatting with Jim from horror movies and shit, and he was like, the characters suck. I don't care about any of them. It looked visually good. The plot was terrible, and we're moving on. Like he was like, I was just like, all right, I can kind of see like as I'm kind of like noodling this over, like as the last couple days.
The more you think about it, yeah.
But yeah, so they get into this research station. And they retrieving these stasis chambers. They find out that there's not enough cryo in the ones that they found, fuel to make the 9-year journey to Yuvaga. So they have to go. They have another reading on their little like scanner that tells them there's more cryo area
like somewhere else in the space station. So
right. So they basically they go into this room where they're retrieving the fuel, and as they retrieve the fuel, it like triggers some sort of like security lockdown in the room, and
locks them in there.
Right, locks them in there, and as they pull the fuel out, the room starts to warm up.
Yep. And as you can see, there's an ass ton of face huggers.
Yeah, there's a whole wall.
Cryogenically frozen.
Exactly. And as you can see, the temperature, the gauges start rising, and they start popping. And there's like, I think there's like maybe like shin deep water. And so
ankle deep.
Yeah, whatever. Like, and so the face huggers start dropping into the water.
Yeah.
And
which looked like they were vacuum sealed, which was funny.
Yeah. I mean, whatever, I guess.
Yeah, it was just a funny visual.
It was. So basically, Rain and I don't remember who else.
It was
Andy.
It was
no.
Wait, hold
she
on.
goes
It was Navarro. She came with.
That's right. They go in to get them out, and they basically find a half of an android
destroyed by acid.
Yeah, destroyed by acid in the ship. So she takes the chip from that android, gives it to Andy so that he has the security credentials to open the door from the inside.
Yeah,
but while that happens, like while she puts the chip in, he's like rebooting and he's like frozen. And while that's going on, the facehuggers are like hunting them down and trying to attack Bjorn and Tyler.
Yeah.
So finally, they're able to open the doors and they're able to get out. And so they're trying to leave. And at that point, when Andy got the new chip, remember, he like got a new directive.
Yes.
So his new directive was no longer like protect Rain and what's best for her, but the new directive
best for the company
is what's best for the company.
And that was the part, right, where they almost had the door shut completely, but a facehugger leaps through the door and gets onto Navarro.
Yes, that was the first thing. It like got on her face, and they were like, it's choking her. How do we get it off? And so Rain reactivates the half android, which his name is Rook, and it turns out is the same likeness
CGI'd
of
Ash
from the first Alien. So
but I don't know if I have a problem with that or not. Like,
so a lot of people were like, "Oh, it looked like shit." I mean, it was definitely CGI because the actor's dead.
Yeah.
That has to be that way. But I didn't have a problem with it because I was like, he's fucking a fake human, number one, and number two, he they made them all like at certain times in the likeness of a single person. So like the fact that it's the same guy with a different name, I guess worked.
Which
for
is
me.
what Bishop was, because he was modeled after frickin' Waitani anyways, because that's who he played in Alien vs. Predator. So
And Alien 3, right?
was he
like a human
I think
then?
he was still. I think it was another android in Alien 3. I think.
Either way, it's the
But-
same. It's the likeness of the
It's the
same
likeness.
person.
But I mean, like, I didn't have a problem with the way it looked. I just wasn't at the time. I just wasn't sure like why they needed to do that. Like they could have just used something else. But you know, I'm 50-50 with it. Like I don't hate it, but I don't love it. Like it's fine.
Right. So they're trying to get the xenomorph, the facehugger off of Navarro, and they reactivate Rook. And he tells them that the station's crew was killed by the xenomorph, and there are some clones, and basically said that Navarro is beyond redemption. So they're trying to remove the creature. Rook says, "Hey, careful! She may have implanted a seed.
Yeah.
Like something may have been laid in an egg inside of her, basically."
And they tried to use some of the cryo fucking fuel like to spray on the tail. They're like, spray it on the tail. Like, I don't think if I was that person, I'd want somebody to do that with it that close to me. Like, let me just spray this fucking like cryo shit on you, and hopefully I don't get it on you.
It worked.
But
It worked. They got it off, but then they were like, "What are the chances?" And it was like 60-40, like
I
not
like
in your
that.
friend's favor or whatever.
Yeah,
so,
that was cool.
Basically, despite everyone, Andy was like, "We have to stop her from getting on the ship and leaving," because he knew what was going on. He knew enough. It's like he
Yeah.
knew little pieces.
He wasn't telling them what he knew.
Right. So, he chases her down, but Bjorn and Navarro get onto the
Along
mining
with
ship.
Kay. Yeah,
along
like
with-
those three like freak out and just dip out, and so all three of them like run back to the ship. And like this is another little nitpick of mine. Like I'm gonna have a few for this movie, but it doesn't change how I felt about it. But like that was the fastest acting face hugger ever. Like that, chest burster. Like I couldn't believe like how quickly like it hatched from her. Like because they got onto the ship. And like immediately Navarro's like, that's the scene from the preview where she's got the little light bright freaking glow in the dark thing, and it shows something moving in her chest, and then it immediately starts coming out of her. I did like how it wasn't all like fast like in other movies, like it was like a slow like bursting through her and kind of slithering out kind of thing. That was pretty cool.
But yeah, so basically the chest burster pops out, kills her.
Yep.
And
Kay gets knocked out because she
tries to help her, and like it bursts out and like splatters her face with blood, and so she screams and freaks out, and she's like,
I think at one point one of them kicks like the little like shifter of the spaceship, so it starts moving. So Bjorn like falls off a ladder, which I laughed my ass off.
right. So and then as the ship spins around, it hits like a fuel tank, and then like it basically crash lands into one of the landing bays
on the other side
of the
orbit
of the space station. Yeah. So but everyone's alive now except for Navarro. She's dead, and now there's an alien loose in the ship.
Yeah, which I'm so glad that they didn't just blow that ship up, because like I told you afterwards, like I was horrified that they were going the Resident Evil route, and they're like, oh, let's kill off half the cast with something stupid like an exploding ship, and then you got 3 people left, and one's an android, so he's probably not going to die from an alien kind of thing. Like I was like, please don't let it be like this. But thankfully, they survived that thing. But I liked how when they're still talking to Rook or whatever, like when they actually look up at the ceiling and there's the alien from the first one, like after his dead body's like hanging up there, and I like how they still had the little grappling hook inside of him. I was like, nice, very nice.
Yeah. So basically, Kay gets knocked unconscious from the impact. Chestburster is escaping into the ship. When she comes to, she runs into Bjorn, who's basically like, be quiet, and they locate the xenomorph like in like an egg, basically, kind of like,
well, it was like a little hive nest.
Yeah, it's like a fucking butterfly,
like a cocoon.
Yeah.
Which I thought was cool. I don't think they've ever done anything like that before, so I thought that was really a nice little add-on to
right. So it was like kind of growing into its adult form or more adult form, and so he attempts to kill the xenomorph. He uses that stun stick and like shoves it in there and like shocks it, and is like, and then like it leaks acid out of it, and he thinks, oh, it's good. And then its
little tail wiggles out and just right across the face.
Bjorn gets cut in the face with the tail, and then as he's laying on the ground, the acid like
Just drips onto him.
Yeah, drips onto his hand and then into his chest, and basically
It just kills him.
Instantly.
Which was great.
Which makes sense because if it eats through the whole of a ship through like several
gonna eat through
floors,
that
it's going to eat
motherfucker.
through your fucking chest.
Yeah, like he was trying to wipe it off too, and then it got on his fingers, and it shows his fingers like melting. I was like, "Take that, you son of a bitch!"
Exactly. So now we're 2 people down. So Bjorn's dead.
Yeah,
and what's her and
Navarro's
Navarro.
dead.
So those 2 are gone.
And
Which
this was the next part's like where they run through that big ass room filled with face.
yeah. So Rain and Andy and Tyler they're trying to get to the hangar bay
to save
whoever's
all left.
Exactly. So they want to avoid the face huggers. They come up to
the temperature.
Right, they came up to a room and they see them all in there, and they were like, "Hey, let's raise the temperature to match our body temperature
so
because
they can't see you."
And it was Andy who said they hunt by like thermal signature.
Yeah.
So they raised it to 98.6, which I also had a problem with because I'm like, he's like, but if you get stressed or if you get scared, your body temperature will go over what it's normally at. So I'm like, why didn't you just heat that room up to like 104?
Because then I thought about that. Then they might still see them because it's a different temperature from the rest of the room. So they'd see, the hotter temperatures of everything else, but then they'd see them as a lower temperature. So that might kind of give them away.
I don't know. During this
Maybe.
whole
I
movie, my
don't
body
know.
temperature would be 105 because I'd be freaking the fuck out this
It was
entire
105 in that goddamn theater.
It was 105. Yeah, this theater was hot as balls. I was sweating. I was like, are you hot? Yeah, it's fucking hot in here.
It's fucking hot in here, man.
So meanwhile, while they're trying to avoid these face huggers, it kind of jumps to Kay, who still is alive.
Yeah.
She escapes the ship, but she's getting stalked by that xenomorph, which is trying to basically lure the others into a trap.
Yep.
So they get through the room with the face huggers. It's like a run, they're walking through.
They make it through.
They end up making it through after a little minor like chase scene, I would call it.
Yeah.
And they get to where they see Kay
on
through
the
the
other side of
door.
a door, yeah.
And he's like, Andy, open the fucking door. And Andy's like, I can't do that. Look behind her. Basically, it was like the xenomorph was like
Just kind of in the background waiting. Yeah.
waiting for them to open the door because then he can kill everybody. So Andy refuses to unlock the door because he didn't want to put everybody at risk, and they pretty much just watch as Kay gets attacked and dragged away.
Yeah. And like that part, like I think because they'd already said that she was pregnant. So then it was like, was Tyler like
Tyler
the
didn't
dad but it was were they?
That's her
girlfriend
brother.
and boyfriend?
He better not be your dad. That's fucked
Bjorn,
up.
I thought Bjorn was her brother.
No.
Okay, never mind.
Because she was like, "Who's the dad?" And she's like, "Just some fucking guy."
Okay, I got them. You're right. That is her brother.
I sure shit hope it's not Tyler's not the dad.
You don't know what they do in 2142.
Hopefully not that, but so basically at this point we see Andy kind of following his new loyalties where he's like not trying to
Company
protect
directive.
them. He's trying to toe the company line, and he finds the samples of the fluid compound that the scientists had taken from the xenomorphs, and that was what did he call it? The Prometheus strain.
Yeah, so it was the black goo.
The goo.
Which I guess is inside of them too.
Yeah.
I guess that's the route we're going with.
I guess
now.
that's like the way I look at it is like their blood is acid, but the goo is like their DNA maybe or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess that's the route they're going. I'm not really sure how I feel about that. Like, I hope they just don't make it really weird and crazy because they were like, oh, we've been experimenting because they showed that rat was injected and it like freaking looked like it had venom on it or some shit.
Well, they smashed the rat and then they're like, look, it brought him back. And
Yeah, he came back to life.
And then as soon as Rook told them to take the samples to the colony and basically give it to the company, they were like, okay. It looks like this end all be all of like what are they like what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's like it lets you live forever. Like a
sort of, yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like it's
It can bring you back to life.
Right. So
But then
it's
it was dead. When they walked away, it showed the dead, like, freaking weird ass looking rat.
And that was my other big problem. I was
deformed.
like, okay, so he wants like Rook is trying to play this off as like, oh, this is like the newest like medical like advanced
for
research
humans,
for like humans to make us invincible and live longer and blah 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 and be stronger. And I'm like, you didn't look 6 feet away and see the rat cage that was like this fucking
the dead
grotesque dead rat with like, yeah, it looked like venom. It was like the black goo like outside of the cage. It just seemed like there was like a big plot hole there. So I did have a problem with that.
I mean, I liked how he said though that humans weren't meant to go out and terraform other planets. Like, it's just not in them to do that. So that's why they were kind of trying to use the goo and synthesize it or whatever they were doing with it.
Right. Yep. So basically, Rook tells them to take the samples, and so they're trying to leave with the samples. And Rain and Tyler, they come upon that long hallway where it's basically like the cocoon, like it's like the nest.
From Aliens, yeah.
Exactly.
That's what it looked like.
It's like the nest, and so they rescue Kay. She's like in a cocoon thing, just like in the first one.
Yep.
But at that point, Tyler gets killed, and Andy gets kind of like knocked out. Like that's when he finally dies. Tyler finally dies.
Yeah, which I was saying,
and that was a cool kill though.
It was a very.
He
cool
took the freaking tail like straight through the chest,
and then they pulled him up through that hole, and then they had like the callback from Aliens where Hicks looks into the freaking ceiling,
and they're all like,
because like he looks over and like there's a shitload of them crawling through the hole. But then they were like, then they had him being like, "Oh yeah, you want some too," or something like that. He wasn't firing the gun that they got.
No.
He's like acting like he's like freaking Hicks all of a sudden, and or hopefully no, that might be are they the right ones? I might have Hudson, yeah. He's like, "Oh, you want some too," kind of thing, and he's not even shooting the gun, and then he gets fucking annihilated by them. But I would have asked Kay, like, I'd have been like, "Hey, were you face fucked before they put you into this?"
I was wondering that too, because
I'd have left her ass if she was.
Yeah,
so.
but basically, so it was Rain and Kay made it to the elevator at that point.
Yeah.
Tyler's dead, and then Andy was glitching out. Remember, he was glitching on the floor.
He got knocked over by an alien or something.
Yeah.
So
he's glitching,
out.
and so they basically Rain decides to, and this is probably the biggest problem I had with it, where she's like, "You, Kay, go to the ship.
Get yourself in the cryo tube.
Right, get in the cryo tube. I'm going back for Andy. Like, I'm not, like, it's a fucking robot. It's a synthetic. I know it's like your adopted brother and your parents are dead and that's the only thing you have left of them or whatever, but like, are you fucking kidding me?
Like, come on now. What are we doing here?
Like, I had a problem with that. So whatever. So she goes back to save Andy by removing that chip, and you know, and when she removes it, he kind of returns his loyalty to like what's best for her.
But
exactly.
He still has like a little bit of the other shit in him, like programming wise.
Yep. So this was kind of the cool part. I thought was like I like the fight, I guess we'll call it, with the aliens at the end, because they're chasing, and she decides as she's shooting them, like she turns off the
zero gravity.
All right, she turns off the anti-gravity or zero gravity thing, so that the aliens are basically like floating.
So
she's
float.
Yeah, and she's just like freaking shooting them, and like that was a cool scene. I thought
that
visually,
was very cool.
With all of the acid blood just kind of floating through space.
Yeah, just kind of spinning around. I will have another nitpick at this part though, like with the gun, because it was like, I mean, it was cool as shit because it had like this like little shoulder mount, or not shoulder mount, but like the part in the back that butts up against your shoulder, like the
auto,
like it moves, so it auto aims. Like don't you think like they would have had something cool like that in Aliens then too? Like, I mean, this goes back to me bitching about like, oh, they brought back like the old school looking computers to keep the same tone, but then like, why did they have like a better fucking pulse rifle?
Well, because this was technically before.
It was before
Aliens.
And this is just me as a fanboy. Like, why couldn't they just use the same goddamn sound effect from the second movie with the pulse rifle? Like that iconic machine, like the firing from the fucking gun. Like, why could they not bring that back? Like, just come on, man. Do us a service here.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably nitpick about this shit all day.
But, I mean, like, it didn't take it away from it. It's just me being a huge fanboy, Mark, of the movies.
It was just a cool scene with all the
awesome.
The zero gravity. And then when she finally makes it to the elevator, and she's like climbing up it, and then like when the elevator gets dropped, whenever the zero gravity got turned back on,
auto turned on,
went down the freaking down the whatever. Yeah,
because they were willow wonking up the fucking elevator shaft because it was still off. So Andy was like way up there. She's trying to catch up, but then like she gets like knocked over, or kind of like in a spin. So she's like kind of like floating up there, but like not in control. She loses her gun. An alien grabs her, but there's a shitload more aliens coming up, and like then the elevator came down.
That's when the gravity came back on. It came down and killed all of them except for the main like giant xenomorph.
The one that was grabbing her, and so then Andy drops down, grabs the gun,
right. That's when
unloads on his face.
Yeah, that's when Andy jumps down and delivers the "Stay away from her, you bitch." But it was a stutter.
You bitch.
Yeah, which was kind of funny because Andy had like a stutter because he was an older
model,
synthetic. Yeah. So everybody at that point we're like, okay, like all that we've been defeated, aliens have been defeated, we're gonna get out of here.
Yeah.
But if you've ever seen an alien movie, you know that like the ship escaping is never that easy.
There's always something on the ship with them.
So they make it back to the ship just before the station crashes into like those ice rings that are surrounding the planet or whatever.
Yeah.
So they destroy, which would destroy Rook and the xenomorphs. And so as Andy and Rain are preparing to go to Yavaga, Kay, remember when she was in the elevator, she ended up injecting herself with the black goo because she was injured.
Fucking dumbass.
Like that was the other thing. I was like, why?
Why? Yeah.
Was she that close to death? I don't know, but she injected herself with it, and she gives birth to a human. Yeah, like it's an egg, but it's like a human xenomorph hybrid, basically.
It was like an opposite of what a normal xenomorph is, because that's what it is. It's like a human xenomorph hybrid, the normal ones. But this one was more like human with xenomorph qualities,
right?
Like a tail and very tall and slender.
So the hybrid kills Kay, like after she births it, and then it injures Andy. I remember it fucks Andy up pretty good too. Slices his neck, and then so basically Rain is fighting him. Trying to on her own. She uses the was it the cryo tube? Yeah, the cryo fuel.
She was trying to use that
to freeze him
to an extent, but that didn't work out too well. And then,
but she ends up basically ejecting the creature from like there's a cargo pod that she's in at the bottom, and she ends up like doing the manual release to drop everything into the rings that are around the planet. So destroys the creature, regains control of the ship, puts Andy, who's, he's a synthetic, he can't die. So places him into the stasis chamber, and then she records her final log, similar to like Ripley did about the uncertain arrival at the planet. She's basically like, once we get to Yavaga, I don't know what's going to happen because, the synthetics are not allowed there, and also is there enough fuel to get them there? But so it kind of leaves it open to more movies
possibly, or just something.
I kind of hope that they do something similar with like they did with Halloween, where you had like the offshoot, like with the Rob Zombie ones, like it was like its own trilogy. I would like to see, like, this would be a good spot to kind of like offshoot it into its own little trilogy, like not its main storyline, but like kind of a smaller one,
like a little side story.
And like I said, with this and with the TV show coming out, I think that they're definitely gonna like capitalize on this, especially as well as it's doing right now.
It's definitely, the franchise is on the right track for sure. Like especially after the last few movies, which are basically just, AVP 1 and 2, Prometheus and Covenant, which there's so many mixed feelings with those movies. So I feel like it's bringing the franchise back, who are people who are just like strictly like the first two. Right. And can't stand anything afterwards, which is not me. I love Aliens, so I love all the movies, even if they suck. Yeah. So that's how it ended. And this is most of the problems I've seen is the plot line is not anything big or not anything like groundbreaking. It's pretty much but I don't think it had to be. No. I liked it. I do think that one of the biggest complaints is like a buddy of mine was like, oh, it's just like it's full of these like it's an alien movie for Gen Z. Like they threw it enough bones to like appease us like old school fans, but then also made it like an alien movie for young kids. But I also think, and he was like, it's just a bunch of people making the dumbest possible decisions. I think I said that to you. And I was like, if you think about this, the entire fucking 7 movies is predicated on people making the dumbest fucking decisions. But that's any horror movie.
That's every horror movie. It's an entire genre.
That's how you build the foundation of a horror movie.
Right.
I mean, what are we talking about?
Are you telling me the people in Halloween or Friday the 13th made the best decisions? No. All they had to do is listen to Ripley in the first movie and not open the fucking door for Kane when he had the facehugger attached to his mask. And guess what? There's no movies. It's fucking over. Nobody lives.
Dunskies.
Like, those people are dead. You sacrifice 2 people and you save 7 movies worth of people a lot of anguish. So like, don't like that. I think that's a
cop out.
That's a bad argument. Yeah, sorry, Jim.
I don't like it.
But yeah, so overall, I'm trying to think. I was trying to like rank the movies in my head, and I was like, my favorite is the first one. My second favorite, Aliens 1, then Alien 2. Then I think I like Prometheus. Yeah. After the first two, and then maybe Covenant. I liked Covenant, and then maybe this one, Romulus, and then 3, and then that horseshit Resurrection. And so, I mean, I don't think this is like in the top, but I think this is like a solid addition to like the lore of what this franchise is.
Exactly. Yeah. And I like there was like you were saying, like there was a lot of callbacks to actually the first 3 movies. There was a few from the third movie, not too many. Like it was enough to be like, oh, okay, cool. But not like that fucking The Predator movie where it was filled with it and just ruined it. Like this one had just enough where it towed the line but didn't go over it.
Yeah.
To make it like piss me off. Like, God damn it! Like, can you not think of your own lines or your own tropes that every other movie hasn't already done in the franchise, kind of thing?
Exactly. So I mean, I'm trying to think if I had to like give it my rating, I'd probably like. My love for alien films wants me to give this like an 8, but I feel like that's just not realistic. As much as like as much as we bitched about little things, I feel like a 6 is fair.
Yeah.
I feel like a 6 is very fair. Some people, like I said, as much as people shit on it, I don't think it's that bad. I really don't.
It's not a bad movie, no.
But I also am not. It's not elite either. So I'm like, okay, and like so I'm gonna go with a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll give it a 6.5. Though I don't think they can ever make another movie in this franchise that's as elite as the first 2. I don't think that's ever.
It'll never happen.
Close.
No.
So with that in my mind, like I take all the other ones and just be like, I'm gonna enjoy it for what it is, which is my favorite film franchise. So I'm gonna take everything that I like and love it. I know it's filled with a lot of garbage, a lot of crap in it. That's fine. So I give it a 6.5. Like it was visually great. Like especially when the space station was hitting the rings, like that was just phenomenal the way it looked.
And I mean, the visually it was great. The sound was amazing. Like I said, the sound or lack of sound in certain scenes, they did a great job. I think with this building the tension. I think that was great.
Yes.
And my favorite fucking like callback to the original films is when she's going down the ladder. And she's wearing the same fucking like Reeboks
that
Ripley was wearing, the high tops in the fucking
the white
hell
with
yeah.
red. I mean, if you think about it, like it's probably in the same fashion sense, or maybe whatever planet she's on is like 30 years fashion sense behind when Ripley got them. So
I don't know. I loved it. I thought it was. I was like, okay, awesome.
I was fine
throwback.
with it. Like, yeah, exactly. That might be the best shoe that came out in fucking 2142, and it just kept on rolling.
Still a dope shoe.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have for today. So that's it for today's review of Alien Romulus. We hope you enjoyed our dive into this classic franchise. Don't forget, our review does not end here. We'd love to hear any of your thoughts and questions, any of your feedback. You can find us on all social media platforms, TikTok, Sinister Scripts Podcast, Instagram and Facebook at Sinister Scripts, as David mentioned. For more horror content we post all the time, we love engaging with our fans and our friends. If you enjoyed today's episode, leave us a review. Let us know what you're listening to. Yeah. Share it with your friends. If you don't like it, well then fuck off.
Fuck off.
Also, if you have any topics, any movies, anything you'd like us to cover, any guests that you think would be fun to hear from, feel free to send us a message, drop us a comment on our social media pages. Like I said, we're trying to get some guests here soon, but yeah, look out for this episode posting here shortly. Thanks for tuning in, and talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Bye.